I was born and raised here in Atlanta. I was born at Emory University, as a matter of fact, Emory University Hospital. And I wound up going to law school there as well as undergraduate. So I guess I'm an Emory person, one way or the other. Following that, I got out of law school and began practicing law, and practiced continuously for, well, I have done for the last 55 years. I, like most young lawyers do, when I got out of law school, I wound up with a law firm that I was the low man on the totem pole. And so I began doing what they asked that no one else wanted to do. And one day I was asked to handle a guarantee case. And I knew nothing about guarantee. They don't teach that in law school. But I had to learn right quickly, and so I did. And of course, as life has it, once you have a guarantee case, if another one comes in, you're the expert. So now you get handed it. And all of a sudden, I began handling guarantee cases, which morphed into representing insurance companies that wrote surety bonds. So we began to build the practice of representing sureties around the southeastern United States, and built a fairly decent practice. We were proud of it. And that continued up until really about the mid-1980s. And about somewhere in the early to mid-1980s, the insurance industry decided to take a left turn and really take in-house much of the decision-making that previously had been left up to the lawyers to make handling lawsuits. And basically tell their lawyers, this is what we want you to do. This is how you will do it. This is how much of this you will do. And I thought to myself, I didn't go to law school to have somebody else tell me how to practice law. And by now I'd been trying to do it for about 20 years and thought I was getting reasonably good at it. So I thought about it at some length and decided that I would simply tell the insurance companies that I couldn't do any more of their work. And it wasn't long until I realized I was just telling them that I was asking them to kick me out of the business because I no longer had any work. So there was a question then of, how do you replace it? What do you do with it? And over the 20 years that I've just described, we had gotten a fair amount of experience in the construction industry, knew a fair amount about the players of the construction industry, but did not really represent anyone other than the sureties at that time. That was really the vast bulk of our practice. And so I thought about it a while, and I thought, the other players in the industry are pretty well represented. The contractors had all of their contracting lawyers that were well. Matter of fact, I started with a construction law firm when I started out of law school. And the architects had their own lawyers, and the engineers did. Of course, the sureties did. Even the subcontractors had their own group of lawyers. There's one pivotal party to the construction process that, as I think about it, doesn't have any readily identifiable group of lawyers representing it. And that is the owner. Because the owner is the purpose of the project in the first place. If you don't have an owner that needs something done, there's no project. If you don't have an owner that has the money to do it, there's no project. And if there's no project, there's no need for architects or contractors or sureties or any of these other parties. So the owner is truly the centerpiece of the construction project. And I began to wonder why that was. How could that be? And pretty quickly the answer was clear, and that was that unlike the architects and the contractors and so on, the owner did not consist of any particular interest group. The owner might well be a retail organization, it might be a service organization, it might be a governmental entity, but it was just a varied group that didn't, at least a lot of owners, didn't always have the need for construction. They had sporadic needs and therefore had no real staff to do their construction and no real attorneys retained to take care of them when they got into trouble. They had their own corporate lawyers, their tax lawyers, the private owners did. The government owners had their government lawyers, but no one had construction lawyers representing them. And as I reflected, I realized that over the years, we had always found it was easier to get the better of most of the owners that we were dealing with as obligees on these bonds that we were representing sureties for. It was easier to deal with those owners, those entities, because they weren't as involved, didn't have the expertise, and it was easier to overcome their positions. So we began to think, let's see if we can't transition our practice to an owner practice. And we began that effort in the 1980s, in the mid-1980s.